I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and a warm welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. I'm probably also the only creator on YouTube and certainly in the true crime community that has written over 100 books. In this episode, we'll deal with the FBI telling Boeing 737 MAX passengers, you may be victims of a crime. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're enjoying this analysis, and by the way, I will be talking about me flying to the States, when that'll be at the end of this episode, so look out for that. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. Now, those 737 MAX passengers are specifically from the Alaskan Airlines flight, where the door plug kind of fell out. And so they've recently received a letter from the FBI that reads, quote, I'm contacting you because we have identified you as a possible victim of a crime. This case is currently under investigation by the FBI. And so that is the message from a victim specialist from the federal agency Seattle office, what was written in letters that passengers received this week. So it's very recent. Now, if you look closely at the seat closest to the gaping hole in the fuselage, it's been stripped of all its cushioning. A passenger on that seat not wearing his or her seatbelt would almost certainly have been sucked out. If the door plug snapped off at cruising altitude, it would have been a major modern disaster. Now, I must say, I'm certainly someone who prefers the window seat, but seeing images like that definitely makes me wonder, would I rather not, choose the aisle seat? And I wouldn't be surprised if aisle seats are now in much more demand. How do you feel about it? No surprise then that the many flyers now are actively trying to avoid flying the 737 MAX, with one travel search engine, Kayak, reporting a 15-fold increase in the use of its aircraft filter in January. Now, as I said, I'm flying to the States in mid to late April, and I specifically asked my travel agency for non-Boeing flights. Of course, the MAX is a short-haul pony, but still. I'll tell you a little more about my plans for my visit to, it'll be my third visit to the USA at the end of this analysis. According to Le Monde, quote, published reports and government officials have said that the U.S. Justice Department has opened a criminal investigation into whether the panel blowout violated terms of a 2021 settlement that led Boeing to avoid prosecution for allegedly misleading regulators who certified the 737 MAX. And I would imagine that what this has to do in the legal sense is that it has to do with a kind of probationary period, where you defer a certain kind of prosecution and indictment if and on the condition that there are no further violations. And what we're seeing now is there is possibly this violation. The question is, was it a mistake from Boeing's side? Was it a mistake from Alaskan Airlines side? Bear in mind, the settlement that we're dealing with followed two crashes of Boeing MAX jets in 2018 and 2019. And in those cases, 346 people died. Now, you may also remember that the final credits of the Netflix documentary Downfall, which is about Boeing and about those crashes, ends with a note that Boeing settled a multi-billion suit against it in order to avoid a criminal prosecution. Now, I do highly recommend that you watch Downfall if you haven't already. It's on Netflix, so just do a search. It'll really open your eyes. The 737 MAX was supposed to be fitted with two sensors. And they decided, why have two sensors? Let's just put one sensor there and save money. And the reason why you have two sensors is if on one side of the aircraft you have something colliding against it, such as a bird or something like that. And so, these safety measures have definitely, the way that Boeing have done away with it was definitely quite questionable. According to Le Monde, quote, Mark Lindquist, a lawyer representing some of the passengers on the Alaska Airlines flight in a lawsuit against Boeing, shared the FBI letter with the Associated Press. The notice gave recipients an email address, a phone number, a case number, and a personal identification number so they can share questions and concerns. The FBI letter did not name Boeing, which declined to comment on Friday. That was March 22. So this is very, very recent. And of course, this also comes in the context of John Barnett, the whistleblower who was killed or lost his life in what definitely looks very, very suspicious. And also him, I think, suing them for defamation. And so Boeing certainly has a lot of legal issues that they are needing to deal with at this time, don't they? Alaska Airlines said, "We are fully cooperating and we do not believe we are a target of the investigation." And so the other side of this is, you may not think this, but increasingly it looks like Boeing's woes are going to be our woes. Even if planes aren't grounded, passengers like me, who increasingly choose not to fly one of the most common workhorse planes out there, well, that could lead to higher prices. That said, the price I paid to fly long haul to the United States this April is the cheapest I've ever paid, a little below $1,000 return. Now, for those interested, I should be in New York for 2 to 3 days before heading to the East Coast with some friends. Then down to Florida. I wrote 2 books on Casey Anthony, so I'll probably be sniffing around Hope Spring Drive and Orlando. I may have a look at the park where Brian Laundrie disappeared and died as well. I will possibly attend part of the trial of Richard Allen in Delphi, Indiana. By the way, I've visited Delphi before. I've been in Indiana before, so I might go there again. But that all depends on how my finances stand. I must say I will really appreciate if you're in any doubt about hitting the thanks button. Please be generous. I could really do with a little bit of a financial boost at this time. I will definitely not be flying as much or renting vehicles as much or staying in hotels as much as during my first 2 trips. I will also, I hope to visit Connecticut, maybe attend the sentencing trial of Michelle Troconis. That is when I'm on my way back to New York and returning home. I'm probably going to be staying with some friends in Myrtle Beach for the bulk of the time that I'm in America in April. And so that's the plan. Meanwhile, one can only hope that the increased surveillance of Boeing is leading to increased and better vigilance. But one does have to wonder whether there are still planes out there with flaws or missing bolts that are part of that period where the culture of safety stagnated at Boeing. It really does come home to you when you've got to get onto a flight and you're certainly wondering whether you can trust the work that went into these planes. So when I do fly, I'll share with you once again my experience on the plane and the general vibe of passengers. Are there more window seats open these days? I'll let you guys know. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.